Hello, you guys. Welcome back. This is part 2 of the pre-tribulation rapture teaching. What are the origins of it? Now, like I said, this is just some people's view of the pre-tribulation rapture origins. This is not everyone's opinion, but I wanted you all to know the other side of what people believe instead of just believing one thing. I think it's important that you do your research and look at different viewpoints on this topic. In part 1, I talked about the why. Of why somebody would make up a pre-tribulation rapture teaching. If it's made up, what would be the motive behind that? And in this video, I want to talk about the who and the how. The who and the how. Okay, so the inner part 1, I talked about how the Protestants were accusing the Roman Catholic Church of being the Antichrist, that the book of Revelation and the book of Daniel talk about. So the Roman Catholics had to do something. They had to implement some plan, some strategy, in order to get rid of the opposition, to stifle any opposition of people believing and spreading this rumor, whether true or false, that they were the Antichrist. So the first guy I want you all to I want to introduce you to, like I said, I want to introduce you to some who's and to some how's. So I first want to introduce you all to who. The first who I want you to be acquainted with is Pope Paul III. Pope Paul III. Now, Pope Paul, he was the Pope at the time, and so all this craziness was going on at the time that he was, the Pope. Around the time that he was a Pope. So he was terrified and he was desperate, you guys. He was desperate to keep people under Roman Catholic control. Now, you all need to understand something about Roman Catholicism, the beginning of it. Let me read this short paragraph really quickly, or some of this short paragraph. It says, since 1550 AD, the Pope has sought to reverse the Protestant Reformation and return the total power economically, diplomatically, and militarily to the Vatican, as in the days before Martin Luther, the Augustinian monk, who you always hear about nailing the 95 Theses to the wall of a church. You may not know what the 95 Theses is, but it's not important. Just know that he let them know, he exposed a lot of their erroneous doctrine, probably all of their erroneous doctrine. And so he wanted to control everything. Now let me tell you a little bit something about the history of the church. Now we know that the temple was destroyed, and Jerusalem was overtaken, and the temple was destroyed, and a lot of crazy stuff happened in 70 AD. And Christianity became outlawed. It was outlawed until 312 AD, or either 312 or 313 AD, under the rule of Emperor Constantine. Emperor Constantine, he made Christianity legal. And not only did he make it legal, but he also made it popular to become a Christian, because he became a Christian. I think he said his conversion experience was that he saw a cross in the sky someday, and that, he was told to, I guess, be a Christian and whatever, so I think he did the Holy Crusades at that time or something like that, but he did a bunch of crazy stuff because of his vision he saw. And so not only did he make Christianity legal, but he also made it popular. So like I said, from 70 AD to 311 AD, Christianity was, people were persecuted. At some point it became outlawed. It was illegal to be a Christian. They were tortured, boiled in oil, crucified upside down, put in a thing full of lions to eat them. So Christians were under a lot of stuff. So when it finally became legal, by this emperor in Rome, in the Roman Empire, everyone wanted to become a Christian because it was popular. I mean, who don't want to be what your king or your emperor or your Caesar is? So a lot of people became, Christians, but they weren't really true converts. They weren't, they might have been still in paganism. They might have been still in sun god worship. They might have still been worshiping Babylonian gods, Greek gods, Roman gods. They might have been witches or whatever, because they kept compromising the gospel in order to let everyone feel comfortable inside of Christianity. So a lot of myths got involved in it, and the first group of Christians was the Catholics. So the Catholics, they had a lot of control at that time. They ran a lot of stuff. They had a lot of control. They worked really closely with the emperor, because he trusted them as being the people who ran the church, and he was a new Christian. So they got a lot of control, and so you all know how they used to sell indulgences. That's when, if you or a loved one are going to purgatory, they would say if you pay, pay the clergyman enough money that you could pay your way, out of purgatory, which is, I guess, the waiting room for hell, or the midway point between heaven and hell. So that way you pay that way. I think 777 AD, they reinstituted tithing. There was no tithing there was no tithing when the church started into 777 AD. So they got money from tithes. I forgot what year they started to get. They started to pay the clergymen. So they were getting a lot of money. Christianity was a very lucrative business. You all think it's a prosperity gospel now. They had their own lucrative business with Christianity back then. So that's why they really want to keep people under control, because it got a lot of money and power and everything. So that's why they wanted to keep the rule. But people thought they were, the Antichrist. So people were leaving them. So now let me tell you all who. I told you Pope Paul III, that's who. He was so terrified and desperate to keep people under Roman Catholic control that he ordered Ignatius de Loyola. I have a hard time pronouncing that name. Ignatius de Loyola, kind of like Crayola, but it's Loyola. He ordered Ignatius de Loyola to found an order of Jesuits. You need to remember this word, because this is the 4 who's. It's 4 important who's I want you all to learn from this video series. And they're all 4 Jesuit priests. I'm going to tell you all a little bit about Jesuits. I can't go too much into it because it'll take me all year. But I just want to focus on, I just want to tell you all a little bit about the Jesuits later on. So the Pope was so desperate to keep control that he ordered Ignatius de Loyola. I'm going to mispronounce that word every time I try it. He ordered him, I'm just going to call him Ignatius. He ordered Ignatius to found the order of Jesuits, which are Jesuit priests, Roman Catholic Jesuit priests. He founded them kind of like a order, like a gather information. He made them as an information gathering type of group of people, kind of like the CIA or the FBI. They were used to gather information on what people thought, what the Protestants thought, and everything. And they were used in order to trick and deceive the Protestants into, being misled about what they thought about the Roman Catholics. So basically, they were a counterattack against the Protestant Reformation. The Order of the Jesuits was started as a counterattack against the Protestant Reformation. They were instituted for the specific purpose of misleading Protestant reformers in order to come back into Roman Catholicism, not necessarily to come back into it, but in order to not see them as the Antichrist spirit. That's what the purpose was. They weren't going to come back to Catholicism, but they were going to no longer think that the Catholics were the Antichrist. So, he made this group up. Another thing important to know about Ignatius is that he was a witch. According to some sources, he was a witch. He also established the Illuminati. That's why Pope Paul asked him to start this whole group of this order of Jesuits, because he knew that Ignatius had also made the Illuminati order. And I know you have heard of the Illuminati. Ignatius was an Illuminati member. See, the Illuminati goes way back. So not only did he make the Illuminati group, he also was a member of it. And in his language, and in Ignatius' language, it's called Los Alumbrados. And it's steeped in Babylonian mysticism. So we hear the word Babylonian again. We hear Babylonian sun god worship in part 1, and we hear Babylonian mysticism. So that's not Christianity. So let me show you all a picture. I want to show you all a picture so you can understand, but I don't want you all to think I'm just talking. I want you to actually know who these people are. So, give me 3 seconds. So we see here that this man started this group of people, and I want to introduce you to the 3 people. Let me show you this guy's picture first. Ignatius de Loyola. This is Ignatius de Loyola, whatever his name is. I'm gonna show you. Zoom in on his names. Loyola. And notice also this halo around his head. Remember I pointed that out in part 1 about how the Roman Catholics love to put this little halo around people's heads. So that's to honor the Babylonian sun god. I believe his name is Mithras. Okay, so that's the guy you need to. So I told you 2 people's names: Pope Paul III and Ignatius de Loyola. Now, he made this group of men up. Okay, now in the 16th century, October 21st, in the year 1517, I give you the exact date. 16th century, October 21st, 1517. Pope Leo, this is another Pope, Pope Leo, he authorized 3 Jesuit priests from the same order that Ignatius made up. He authorized 3 Jesuit priests to reinterpret Daniel's 70-week prophecy. I believe Daniel's 70-week prophecy, that's how we come up with the 7-year tribulation period. And we got that based on Daniel's 70-week prophecy. It's not supposed to be 70 literal weeks, but I'm not sure what exactly it symbolizes, but it's not literal 70 weeks. It's actually more than that. So he hired 3 Jesuit priests. Remember, the Jesuits were hired for the specific purpose to mislead and to counter the Protestant Reformation. He hired 3 of these Jesuit priests to reinterpret Daniel's 70-week prophecy, Revelation, the book of Revelation, and Ezekiel, because all 3 of those talk about the end times. And the reason that he hired these 3 men to do this was to take the eyes and suspicions off of the Roman Catholic Church. Because of this Protestant Reformation movement, everyone was starting to question and to be suspicious of the Roman Catholics. Like, well, I'm a Protestant, friends are telling me that according to all the different, according to all the different prophecies in the Bible, the Antichrist is strikingly, he's strikingly similar to these Roman Catholics. So there's 3 people I told you about already: Pope Paul III, Ignatius de Loyola, and Pope Leo. Okay, and the 3 people he hired, I'm going to go into detail in part 3. But the 3 people, the 3 Jesuit priests that he authorized was Francisci Ribera of Salonica, Luis de Alcazar of Santiago, and Cardinal Roberto Bertolini. I'm going to show you their pictures real quick. So he hired these 3 men for this one purpose. Now remember, the men were hired, they knew what they were hired for. Okay, the first guy, Francisco Ribera, that's the first guy, and he made a book up. They all 3 had books they made up. And they made up these books just so they could deceive people like you and me. Here's Francisco's book, Francisco Ribera. Now it's written in Latin, because back then they wrote in Latin. So this is Francisco, so we pronounce it Francisco Ribera, but Francisci Ribera Avilica. This is his book here. We have a copy of it. Notice that Illuminati, or that, I'm not sure, I'm gonna say it's Illuminati, but notice that very strange symbol they put on there, the very strange seal they put on there. And this is Francisco Ribera here. Francisco Ribera, that's him there. So that's a Jesuit priest who made up this book here. The other guy was Luis de Alcazar. Sorry I'm taking so long. Luis de Alcazar. Where's his picture at? I'll just show you his book here. Can't find his picture. This is again, it's in Latin, so Ludovici, whatever you pronounce it, Alcazar, written in Latin, it appears. You see the word apocalypse there. And then also let me show you the other guy, Roberto Bellamini, or Bellamini. It's the 3rd Jesuit priest that was hired. They all look kind of creepy to me. None of them look like they're outstanding good men. So those are the men I want you to remember. Look for part 3. Thank you.